Hello and welcome to Heavy Metal Rex. My name is Weiss, and today, finally, behind me, as you can see, I am finally going to get a chance to drive a 2024 WRX TR. Now, if you guys have been following the channel for some time, you know I've made a ton of videos on just this car over the last few months. I actually got a chance to see this when it was first revealed down in Daytona, October 7th of last year, and although the response was a little bit tepid, there was a lot of things about this car that people weren't really understanding, and we're going to be talking about that today. Also, I want to give a big thank you to Sunset Hill Subaru for actually letting me take their TR out today. Some of you know I've actually bought my 21 WRX from here, and I bought my 22 WRX from here, and some of you actually have come both locally and from out of state to buy your WRXs here, so I appreciate you guys taking my word for it. I actually went to quite a lot of dealerships here before I finally settled on this place, and I have to say, even my salesperson to pretty much everybody in service, I've been here a lot, and it has been a pretty good experience, and you guys know I'm more partial to customer service over anything else. So if you're ever looking for a car, this is the place to get it from. Now, one of the big complaints that a lot of people have had over the course of this car's release was the brakes haven't been that great, the transmission, but nobody ever really expected a WRX to come with an STI transmission. But a couple other things reviewers in the very beginning did complain about was the suspension was a little too soft and the steering wheel was a little loose. So in response, Subaru actually did make some really good changes to this car specifically. Now, another thing that comes up as a point of contention is, should you spend this much money for a WRX specifically? But to be fair, many people are already buying a limited. So really, the extra bonus that you're getting above a limited versus this is going to be the Brembos, which they added. Now, the TR itself is pretty interesting in where it is positioned, because it is not quite everything that a GT comes with, but it comes with a little bit more than what a limited is, and we're going to look at each one of those features individually. So now, if you've ever looked at what the limited comes with, there's a couple of really nice features above the premium, which is the Alcantara interior, the suede seats. It does come with the steering responsive headlights. You get the Harman Kardon system, and you also get a sunroof. Now, the GT comes with something that everybody really enjoys, which is the Recaro seats. Now, what's interesting with the TR, what they've done is let go of the sunroof, but then add the Recaro seats. And more specifically to this, and all 2024s, you do get the added rigidity in the rear, in the chassis itself, which does help with actual performance. You do get a larger brake master cylinder, and the base 2024 actually does come with the 11.6-inch screen like the premium, which is kind of nice, because I don't really know why they didn't add that originally, but it's a good feature. Now, what the TR adds also above the limited, and what the GT doesn't get, is the tuning for the suspension has been redone, so it's a little bit stiffer. The steering has been tightened up a little bit, and of course you get the 6-pot Brembos. 6-pot in the front, 2 pots in the back. Your rotors are also larger, and this combined does make this a really good option, obviously, because, like I said, you get the Recaros as well. So you get a little bit from the GT, and it's basically like a limited plus. And now I believe the limited is starting at somewhere around 39. So with this being 41, really, if you were already going for a limited, you're just paying an extra 2,000 or so, if it's MSRP, for these added more performance features. Now, regardless of what the other features are that the TR comes with, this is what everybody's going to see at first. You do have larger rotors, and they are drilled. You do have the 6-pot Brembos. Now, this part is a bit controversial because not everybody is a big fan of these style of wheels. I do feel like the 22s were already a little busy when they're in the premium above, and this just adds even more spokes. I'm not sure if there is a particular design logic to it, or if it was just for aesthetic purposes. And also what you're getting is 19-inch instead of 18-inch on limiteds and below. And you also get brand new tires. These are the Bridgestone Potenza S007s. People have said that these are the same tires that come on different Ferraris, but I haven't been able to confirm that. Now, I do know that these are supposedly better than the GT Supermax that used to come on the 15 to 21. I know that because, like, when I took my WRX to the track using the new Dunlop 600A GTs, those were considerably better, and these are supposed to be better than that. Now, there's 2 more quality of life changes that happened to this car that I wasn't 100% sure about, and I actually heard this on somebody on Facebook who had mentioned it, who had just bought their TR, and that's the turn stock they finally changed it. Now a lot of people were not fans of like the one touch, and they finally made it to where you have the one touch, but you can also actually flick this down like like a real turn signal, which you think that that's like not really that big of a deal, but this was a really big thing that people complained about a lot. And I'm glad to see that Subaru actually listened, and it gives you the option to do both. You can kind of lightly touch it to make the turn signal go off, or you can just flick the whole stick and it'll act like an old like just like a regular turn stock. Now another thing that you get here, I don't have the keys to this car, so I can't exactly show you, but the dash, the infotainment system does have wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. I do know on the 22s and the 23s, it took us about almost a year and a half to even get full screen Android Auto. So the fact that the 24s are all coming with that is actually really nice. I would suggest that in time, some of these dashes might end up on eBay or something of the nature, or maybe through Wreck Cars. And I wonder how easy it would be to swap out our dash in a 22 and 23 with a dash from a 24. So something to think about. Now, something really cool that they added, and this is particularly useful for, I mean, anybody who has a phone, is in the rear, they actually changed it to where instead of just having two USB-As, you actually have a USB-A and a USB-C. And same thing in the front. If we actually look down here, you actually have a USB-A and a USB-C, which is a nice quality of life improvement, because if you notice, a lot of the newer phone manufacturers, or just like the newer phones, are not coming with a USB-A to USB-C. They're just coming from USB-C to USB-C. So this makes it so you don't have to get an adapter, which is kind of nice. Anyway, all this talking is one thing, because I've talked about this car enough, and other reviewers have talked about it enough as well. How about we go get the keys and take this out for a drive? Now, Robert is actually going to be joining me. He's the media personality here at Sunset Hills Subaru. So it's nice to have somebody to bounce some ideas off of. Plus, somebody's got to give me the key. So he's going to be on the ride with me as well, and we'll get his opinion on the WRX TR as well. So what's really interesting about this is I was driving here we were actually driving here on the highway. Oh, also, this is Robert, by the way.
What's up, guys?
He's been helping me record the video today. People talk smack about the eyesight system, but realistically, this is still really useful for a lot of people, because when I was just driving on the highway with the eyesight on, it does have the automatic steering wheel control. So you have the adaptive cruise control, you have the lane keep assist, and like, I'm not saying the car is basically going to drive you home, but I mean, like, look, there are days when you're leaving work and you're really tired, and there are days where you don't want to drive. You want to just have fun, or sorry, not have fun, just relax. And this is a really good way to do that. Now, the eyesight system, as we've seen in the automatics and stuff, you can turn all of this off, and really, it's only active, especially like the auto off and all that stuff, is only active at like a certain speed. So when you're at the track, like, it's not gonna, you know, the car's not gonna like randomly stop in the middle of you driving on the track. So like, that's something that people really have to just understand. They would never build a system that would do that. Now, another thing that I noticed is the steering wheel it's a lot better. And I can tell just by when I was driving in a straight line, my steering wheel, even from the very beginning, was a little loose. I always found that to be unusual. And here, this is a really fun little twisty road that we're gonna go down on. It's not super fast, but it gives the opportunity to really feel the suspension, because I couldn't really feel it when we were driving on the highway. You can't really tell, but I mean, it obviously, compared to coilovers, this is really soft and a lot more comfortable. But like, overall, they stiffen it up a lot. Like, it is noticeable compared to like when you're driving, if you drive like a 22 or a 23. Even right now, like, this is it's pretty good. And the brakes, look, they're not OEM pads. They are Brembos, and they're pretty sure these are the same ones that came in the 21 WRX Performance package, or I think it was like the 19 Performance package. and like they feel great. I mean, there's no, you know, they're large 6-pot Brembos. The car is gonna stop, right? That's the thing. And just right now, there's no like extra minute adjustments you need to do on the steering wheel.
Feels like the steering wheel's pretty responsive too.
Oh yeah, dude. It was like, it's already a pretty responsive steering wheel from the old one, because they made it like dual electric pinion. So like but because of that, it got a little softer. Whereas like right now, it's more noticeable when you're driving in a straight line. Even if you move it like a little bit, the car wouldn't move. But even now, like I move it a little bit, the car is moving left and right. You can feel the slight bit. If we go ride in my car and I do the same thing, the car is still going in a straight line. And for a performance vehicle, that doesn't feel good. And that's like the number one complaint that people have. Now, have you driven a lot? Have you driven any of these WRXs yet?
I have, yeah. And I've noticed I haven't driven the TR yet, but I can already tell the responsiveness in the steering and with the brakes and everything like that. I mean, look at that. That's just it's impressive.
Yeah, and it should be. You know, there's like $5,000 brakes.
Yeah.
And you know, and we've talked about like, you know, is it worth having, you know, buying this versus just buying a base and building your own? And I actually plan on making an extra video about this, because somebody did bring this up on Facebook as well, because they are quoting about, I think it's like $5,500 if you want all of the parts to do on your WRX, because you do need to change the knuckles, and obviously you are getting the brakes, and the rotors are larger and stuff like that. And I still don't know if it is worth it to, I don't know, because I'm torn, because the price that I was able to find was like very close. You know, one of the videos I made earlier, I actually priced out how much it would be to make a TR if you bought a base. And I think the price was like about $1,000 difference. The difference here is, you know, everything is going to work. And at the same time, even if you are planning on changing the tires or the wheels, it's still, I mean, that's got to cost you. Obviously, that you might as well just add like an extra $1,500. Also, I do want to say these tires are amazing.
Yeah, they are. I mean, God,
these are really good tires.
Plugging these turns.
Yeah.
On that note too, another thing, even if it's $1,000 difference, nowadays time is money. So you're saving time just by having it already installed on the vehicle too. And like you said, you know it's gonna work, and it's covered under warranty, which I think is a good selling point.
My thing is, if you are mechanically inclined, maybe going with a base is a better option for you. Right? You can do all your work at home. You save that money. You buy, especially if you buy stuff off the used market. But if you, and I mean this with no offense, as I'm going to be 40 in like a year, right? If you're an older gentleman or older gentlewoman and you want to buy a car that has stuff in it already, and you don't want to pay somebody to do any mechanical work, and you don't want to do it yourself, this is a great option for you, right?
Yeah.
It is still about the same weight as a Limited, so it's not that much heavier, not like the GT. And if you want something manual and you want all of the fun parts in it, like if you want to go straight from the dealership to autocross, this is the car, this is the WRX to do it in.
It is.
You know, I've done autocross on my WRX on stock suspension and stock tires, and then I did it again on my coilovers with my aftermarket tires. And yeah, there's a big difference, but the stock suspension, even before the dampening changes they made on this and the spring rate changes they made on this, is still really, really good. You know, and I think it's all because of the chassis. Obviously, this is not a car that we can really rip on, but it feels a lot more planted than obviously a V8 WRX. So if you're thinking about coming from an older WRX, regardless of whether you get a 22, 23, or 24, you're going to drive this, you know, and it is going to surprise you how well it handles, especially because everybody thinks it's so much bigger. Like, we're only going maybe like 35, 40 around these turns.
But it's hugging these turns.
Oh, yeah. Just so well. And as you can see, eyesight isn't kicking on at all. As it shouldn't.
And on eyesight, too. And it really is impressive to think that eyesight is available now with a manual, because you can't usually get them in a manual. And, you know, for the casual, you know, driver who it's their everyday driver, but they want to have a little fun on the weekends, this would be the option for you, because you get all the safety features, you get eyesight, but it's also kind of track ready too. You can go from street to track seamlessly.
Yeah. And that's what the guy, I think it was Bob, I know Subaru isn't specifically calling it that because the old TR was tuner ready. This is not. This is track ready, and it is apparent. Like, yeah, people will say, oh well, it doesn't have the power. Okay, get yourself a cop. Get like, even if you don't get any hard parts to it, you know, just get a tune. You'll be at like 300, no problem. You know, put some ethanol in it, you'll be maybe at like 320. That's all you need. You don't need any more hard parts on this car if you are just wanting to get this and just stick with, you know, with the way the car is. It's still really good. And I mean, this...
I have to admit, it's for stock. I mean, I feel like I'm in a rally car right now.
Yeah, basically.
Just the way that it hooks these turns, the acceleration. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and we're driving through like these tiny Missouri woods. Yeah. It's really good. And I had a feeling it was gonna be, and you know, I try to come at this with like the minimum amount of bias, and you guys have known I made a lot of videos trying to compare this to like the Elantra N, you know, compare it to the Civic Si. Now this does put it into a different price bracket. You know, we're looking at $42,000. To be fair, I have a feeling a lot of the reviewers are going to do what they did with the WRX in the beginning and say, oh, it's not really that great. Just buy a Type R or buy a Golf R. And what's going to end up happening is the MSRP of this is going to go down. You will be able to get this. And actually already somebody bought one of these in California for $1,500 under MSRP. That puts it very close to 40 and even closer to 39, which is basically what a limited is. Try to get one of these. I thoroughly think if you're not going to mod it yourself and you still want those parts, this is the one.
This is the option, definitely.
Plus these tires are like really good. Anybody that was complaining about the 17 inches, keep an eye out for anybody who's going to be selling these cars, buying these cars and selling the wheels and tires on Facebook Marketplace. Oh man, this is a good one. Because already you can get like, so what people do is almost everybody I know has always just like changed their wheels and changed their tires. Everybody thinks that like the stock OEM tires are not great. They didn't used to be, but the new ones they put on the premium and the limited for the 22, 23 are actually really good. That's like $400 a tire. People sell them all four for like $300-400 on Marketplace. That's a really good deal.
I think it's testament to Subaru listening to their customer base and actually coming up with a solution to satisfy the customers who are into, you know, taking it on a track or off, you know, on like a rallycross type trail.
Or even just doing this.
Yeah, just you know, casual drive.
If you have a fun drive home from work, it's, you know, it's definitely going to put a smile on your face. Like this is, like I'm enjoying this. I do this every day. I always take the long way home from work anyway, if I can. And I have a blast. I freaking love it. Now it's going to be a little different because I'm going to be driving through the dirt. I'm going to be just driving through fields. Dude, these brakes, you have to apply like no pressure at all in the car. It stops. All right, so we're back from our drive, and if you watched this far, you already know exactly how I feel. I was already excited about this whole car since they first announced it because there was just so much more to it than just, oh, it's a limited with Brembos. And a lot of people will say, well, just buy a base and put all those parts on it to make your own TR. But there's a couple of things that you can't get with that. Obviously, like you cannot get the Android Auto. You will not be able to get the chassis rigidity in the in a base unless you buy a 24, and then you could build from there. But still, to buy all the individual parts, not including the speakers and stuff, is still going to cost you about like $8,000 to $9,000. Well, between $7,000 and $9,000, depending on if you go on the used market or what set of parts you buy. It still feels like the best WRX that Subaru has ever built. So we're going to talk about the eyesight first. The speeds that we were at were like somewhere about 45 to 50 miles per hour. And even though those were kind of like narrow roads, I noticed that when I was on the highway, if I got close to any lines left or right, the car did auto adjust using the eyesight system. But when I was at high RPMs and higher speeds, eyesight basically acted like it didn't even exist. And there were a few times where I actually got really close to the center line or really close to the outside line, and eyesight did not correct my driving. My assumption is that it knows when you are driving, cruise control and chilling, and when you are actually pushing the car. And I really don't expect that those systems would stop you. Of course, I purposely left all of them on because I wanted to know if they would. And, I haven't heard of anybody else saying like they try to do some driving, some twisty road driving and had it interfere. Now, of course, this is just one particular test and more testing will need to be done. The most recommended thing is to just turn it all off. I didn't want to do it just to see what would happen. The car itself handles amazing. Just on the highway and just driving, when we were driving to the location, it actually was not, it was incredibly smooth. But then once we were at location, we were actually throwing the car left and right, as you can see, it felt very planted. Now, that is, they didn't retune the suspension too stiff to kind of obviously keep some of the everyday comfort driving, which is really good. And the steering. This is the most important thing because like I know that when I'm driving my WRX, like even the slightest movements does not actually move the car. Whereas this feels more like the GT steering wheel when you have the GT steering wheel on Sport Sharp, which felt great. And especially when I was in the turns, I'm not gonna say it felt heavier, but it felt like my more minute changes of the steering wheel actually did move the car the way that I expected it. So that is kind of nice. Now, I don't know if it's possible for you to pull the rack and pinion steering system out of this car and put it in a base or a limited or a premium, but this is something hopefully people in the community will go and do and let us know if it's possible. Obviously, the power is still exactly the same. I was not expecting anything different, but the overall feeling of the car, it feels much, much better. Obviously, the brakes were fantastic. There's nothing else that needs to be said about that. They're 6-pot Brembos versus whatever OEM that we get. It's a night and day difference. So the biggest change that you're going to feel on that is probably not going to be on the street, and it's going to be more so on the track or if you autocross, you know, less brake fade, not necessarily faster braking, but more consistent braking. That along with the tires. The tires did feel very similar to the 600 GTs that we have on the 22s, or the 22 Premiums and Limited and GT. Very good tire, no real complaint, all that. But of course, Subaru did not call me to take this out on the track, so I can't really test it other than what we do on the street. But I still maintain that if you are looking for a WRX this year, 2024, and you have not bought a WRX yet, and you are probably considering a premium or a limited, it is worth it for you to go and see if you can get one of these, maybe under MSRP. There may be places that'll do it. I already know 2 places in California that have sold some under that $41,000 price range. So if you're already gonna spend $39,000 for a limited, check this car out because it is, I think, the best WRX Subaru has made in years. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video informative, and I will see you in the next one.